Steve Maley. I've known Ken for 61 years. We were in the first grade together, so that goes back a ways. 1948, I guess, would be when we started in Foster Grade School in Foster, Oregon. I met Winnie when we were probably in the 8th grade, when we went to dancing lessons at the Elks Club in Sweet Home. Ken and I went through 8 grades of grade school together at Foster Grade School. So we were pals, best buddies, and shared sports and girlfriends and Boy Scouts, and music was a huge thing for us. We had a wonderful mentor in John Davis, who came to our school when we were in the 2nd grade. So we were in band together for 6 years. And we had a marching Boy Scout band as well as a grade school band. So we shared lots of stuff. 61 years is a long time to know a guy, but you know, when you spend as much time together as we did as kids, you get pretty well acquainted. Now, Robertson, of course, as you know, is known as being a shrewd and a hard worker, and of course always was. So I saw a lot of those characteristics over the years, and it's interesting that when we were in the 8th grade, you know, you're sort of casting around saying, well, goodness, we're going to be in high school soon. I wonder what the girls are going to look like that we haven't seen. And so the great exposition, of course, was the Elks Club dancing lessons, where we went as in the 8th grade and then saw all the other kids from around the country. Robertson always had an eye for the ladies. He also had an eye for the best looking ones. Clearly Winnie was one of the bright stars, lovely, and so I think he had his eye on her early, probably in the 8th grade, as we were checking things out at the Elks Club. She was absolutely charming. Just I can't remember Winnie without a smile on her face. When she walked into a room, she just brightened the place up, just like the sun came on. You know, she was just radiant. Always was, and I can't remember any other way. And so she just brought joy and light and happiness to wherever she was. That was just a fact. Winnie was a cheerleader, and the unique thing about Ken and Winnie, and there were 3 couples of us that were almost inseparable later on after your folks got together, and I know you're going to ask me about that, and I'm prepared to tell you in some detail. But you know, we shared all kinds of things, but obviously in those days, and I'm sure still, everything was related to athletics and sports activities, and in those days the girls' part of it was cheerleaders, and of course Winnie was, and along with other friends. So Friday night was always a game of some sort, and then a dance following that, and then other kinds of activities. So we shared all of those things. It's well known that Ken is crafty and a hard worker. So I was an athlete of sorts. The only thing I did especially well was run, because I didn't have to do much except perpetually fall forward, so I could manage to do that. In any case, but I tried all kinds of sports, and most of us did in those days. But Ken worked, and so he didn't participate in a lot of those extracurricular sports activities. And some of us felt, my gosh, that's too bad, poor Ken has to work so much. But interestingly, his birthday was in January. So come January, when he was 16, after that hard work, he shows up with this beautiful 55 Chevy. And I said, now wait a minute, this guy has an agenda. But there's more to the agenda than that, because your mom and I were sort of the unofficial social planners for our class. In history class, we planned this event, bus trip up to Hoodoo ski area. And it was wintertime, obviously, snow on the ground. And so we planned the great event. And I remember very distinctly when everybody loaded up on the bus in front of the high school, the guys kind of sat with the guys, and the girls kind of sat with the girls. On the way back, it wasn't that way. Now, this was a one-day trip. I remember very clearly Ken and Winnie in the back of the bus, and from that time on, they were inseparable. Well, the interesting thing is that this event sort of coincided with that 55 Chevy. So I have an idea that Robertson maybe laid his strategy back in the 8th grade at the Elks Club. I think he had this plan. So you know your dad to be a planner, of course. Nothing really happens by accident with this guy. So while I knew him pretty well, I have to compliment him for that strategy, for for figuring out clearly how to hook up with arguably one of the prettiest girls in the school. Oh, I mean, they were a fit. I mean, I could see these guys are suited for life. Winnie, of course, I mean, she can't change. She's as bright as the sun all the time. But Robertson had kind of a smirky smile all the time. So like, you know, he was pleased with himself, and he should have been, of course. So they were just wonderful together. I remember that was the summer between our sophomore, that is between our junior and senior year, and we were all working. I worked for Lynn County Fire Patrol, and Kenny was working at the place. Anyway, he and I were doing something together, and not long before school started. And he seemed more serious than usual. And so he said, "Hey, Steve, Winnie and I are getting married." And my immediate response was, "Great, when?" So, you know, I wasn't, nobody was surprised. It was just marvelous, and we were all happy. So the kids got married in September, and of course Oregon hunting season always in October. And we're in school, and Robertson says, "Hey, Maley, things are a little lean around the Robertson household." And I said, "Well, we'll fix that." And you know, we had a tree farm then up on Hufford Hill, and I knew where there were a couple of bucks, and one I told him about, the other I didn't. And the one was a fat little 2-point, and so I said, "Well, Kenny, you know, Saturday morning, show up about hour before daylight, and we'll go get us a buck, and you guys will have some food here shortly." So anyhow, he showed up, and we went up on Hufford Hill, and we split up, and I sent him where I thought the little buck was, and I heard him shooting about a half hour after we'd separated, and went down, and there was the biggest 4-point buck I'd ever seen. I was absolutely delighted. And so the Robertsons had meat, and I didn't have the big buck anymore. And if anybody was going to get that big buck, I'm glad my best friend did. So anyhow, the only bad thing about the story is that he lost a damn horn. So he was a monster. Anyway, Ken did a good job, and got that big old buck.
Well, I'm Marty Maley, and I met Ken and Winnie, as Stephen already said, just days before we ran off to Reno and got married. So I had come out to meet, it was still 1963 actually, it was right after Christmas time. Oh, well, very friendly, very warm people. We didn't spend a whole lot of time right after we were married. I don't know where they were at the time. I can't remember where they were living, but we saw them off and on, you know. But you know, it was probably hard for them because all through high school, Stephen had a different girlfriend, and they were the ones that were very close. And so here comes this Easterner, you know. I'm from upstate New York, which is north of the city, and born and raised, so I'm a New Yorker, and a Yankee fan. But anyway, I'd never been further west than Chicago in my entire life, so in 1963 I come out to Oregon. You couldn't get much further west than that, and met all of them that one week. It was very stressful, as I recall, for me. You know, I felt, well, gee, if I don't pass muster, what then? But it turned out okay. You know, it's a great way to learn what he was like in high school, just to talk to them, you know, to find out what kind of a kid he was. And I think if I had been there, I don't believe I know I would have given his high school girlfriend a run for money. Anyway, yeah, we've spent a number of really fun times together. They came here. They all came here. Cardwell's and your mom and dad came here, for, as Trudy said, for a sleepover. Oh, we're going to have a sleepover. So we did that, and it was fun. It was just a lot of fun. And yeah, it wasn't just recently. Actually, it was in 2003. We'd been in this house for about 2 years. So it looked a little different than it does now. But we just wanted them to come. We wanted them all to come. And so I think it was in October.
It was.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And beautiful weather, absolutely gorgeous. And we just had a great time. We just sat around and talked and ate and, you know, just enjoyed each other. It was very nice, very wonderful weekend.
I just want to say, Rex, that, you know, there's some things I've already said about lasting feelings and thoughts, but maybe something I'm going to say sort of sums it up for me. We had a family issue that meant that I went down to the Betty Ford Center with our daughter, and there was of course that's near where Ken and Winnie's winter home is, and without any question, Ken and Winnie offered their new home to our whole family, and with everything available to us. It turns out that we didn't take the opportunity to do that, didn't happen, but just that wonderful generosity and their visits to our daughter while she was there was just marvelous. And so those things go in your soul very deep. You don't have to hang out every weekend, or even sometimes we've gone longer than months being together, but just the constancy of that love and friendship and trust and deep feelings are irreplaceable. It's not trivial friendship. Yeah, we look forward to more good times in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
so much warm feelings on their 50th wedding anniversary.
Well, it's not a surprise that we're celebrating a 50th wedding anniversary with them. They're just, what else would you expect? You know? They'll go on for 50 more years, I think. Yeah.